What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are doing another welder review today. Now this is something that some of you people like, some of you just popping in to see what the product is, get some reviews on it. I'm gonna try and keep this relatively short, sweet, to the point because I've done quite a few of these. Now this, I believe, is, the company's name is Hynadee, or that's the manufacturer of the welder, but I believe it is the same people who sent us the bestarc, the flux welder a couple months back. That welder, honestly, fantastic for the price, especially for being a flux welder. If you guys didn't watch my recent video, if you're just popping into the channel, I bought a trailer recently, built a little storage attachment and stuff, used that flux welder for the whole thing. Wasn't like a dedicated video to the welder by any means, but it was my actual test outside of doing some scrap metal welding here at the shop, and it was awesome. So I have pretty good hopes for this Mig Welder. Now this is just a 110 unit, nothing super crazy. It should work pretty well. I have my big Hobart Mig Welder back here, the cabinet style welder, so I'm gonna take the bottle off of that. Let's get this thing unboxed really quick, see what it's packing inside of here. This looks to be the Mig 145. I'm not sure the difference, I'm sure we'll see it once we open this thing up. So let's get cracking. You guys are gonna have to forgive me. My tripod recently broke and I haven't had time to go get another one. So we're just setting you up wherever we can fit you, and we're gonna try and make the best of it. So I want to give a big thank you to Hynadee for sending this out. It's always a pleasure getting to work with new pieces of equipment and get to have some fun and just get to experiment. Tools are cool. I think we can all agree there. So right off the rip, this dude is tiny. So I see a box. Let's open this other box first because we're limited on table space at the moment. I'm going to assume this is the accessories. See if my assumption is correct. All right, so we do have a stick welding lead. Not too sure what that's about, when this is, well, we have it. We got the ground clamp. That's an interesting one. We do have a 220 plug if we need to tie into it or if we want to use that, as well as a generic gas line. I'm not a huge fan of this style. This is a more universal style where you just clamp it. These tend to leak in my opinion. I haven't had very good luck with them, so that would be my only gripe on the products. Otherwise, it's just the regular stuff. We got the roller gear here. We have tips, and this looks like pipe tape, as well as a strap. This is kind of like a briefcase style welder. So I'm gonna assume these are two different rolls of wire in these boxes. Hopefully they're MIG wire, solid core, and not flux. That would be flux. So this is 70-6, so this is solid core, so that's good, that's what we want. So we will be testing this stuff. As for the flux, we can keep this as a spare roll for the trailer where I keep the other welder. And of course, you have your user manual, which we may need to read this one because they're welders, although simple, a little bit different than I'm used to. But let's get this thing pulled out of here. I do like how compact this is. That's the one thing that was really nice about the flux welder. Other than the length of the lead, which is to be expectedly short with the size of the unit, how light these things are is great. So obviously, of course, the briefcase style, as I just said, so it's very small, compact, has a nice little carrying handle on top. And we got this nice pretty little yellow color. So not looking too bad. Can definitely work with that. This is how you open this side, get access to everything. So I'm gonna flip the handle to the other side. And there you go, you have your roller, you have the feed on here and this button. So this is the gas in portion right here, so that's gonna be the only tedious part. Now I do have actually a regulator to this style because this is a style that Vivo or whoever, you know, however you wanna pronounce it, sent me. This is a TIG welder, but they also ship the same universal style gas stuff. So not my most preferred method, like I mentioned, but it does work. You just got to make sure you put a good clamp on there. Past that, so this actually comes with a 220 plug, so I'd imagine that's the difference with the 145 model to the 135. Oh, okay, it actually is right here. It says that right there. I should have just read the instructions first. So the 135 is a 110. This is a 110 220. Now, I'm a little intimidated to try this out on the 220, see how hot this thing can get. We'll find something thick. I do a lot of automotive stuff, so I don't know that we'll have anything extremely thick to weld around here, but we will see what we can do. Otherwise, packaging You know, it is a digital unit just like the old one. So got our inputs right here, the lead inputs, and then of course you have your lead here for the torch, where you can change it for DC electrode positive and DC electrode negative, depending on if you're doing solid core or flux wire. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's get this peeled off. Love that sound. Great. Let's get this thing plugged in right away. Let's get some wire on it, get a gas bottle hooked up to it, and see what it does. I just want to show you guys really quick. Let's get this thing set up. So the tip that comes on the gun is a 040 size. We're going to be using 030 because that is what it shipped with. Otherwise, 8mm for you, you know, Europeans and Canadians. So with the machine all set up, we got wire in here, we're ready to weld. We just need to finish hooking up the gas as well as the line. So this is on the install instructions for the 145, which is what we have here. This also has the 135 on the front of the book. So we're gonna go for, right now we're gonna try the 220 and then we'll drop it down to the 110, since that's majorly what people are gonna be using this thing for. Because not everybody has a 220 outlet set up for a welder. So we're going for MIG welding, which is gas solid welding. You need DC electrode positive, so that's going to be this wire here. You have your plus down here, your negative up here. So we're just going to go ahead and set this thing up. A little bit of a tight stretch here. Get that in there, rotate that, lock it in, and then we're going to take our ground clamp, which will be right here, and we can go ahead and twist this thing in. I gotta finish taking the cable tie off it, but you get the idea. Now we're set up. Hook up the gas really quick, right off the back port, and we'll tie that in right there, and we'll be good to go. Now, it does have some general starting points here for, you know, install instructions, as well as what you're gonna be working with for your wire speed, size, and gas flow. For me, I usually run anywhere from like 18 to 20 CFH for MIG welding. That seems to be my normal sweet spot. This being not American made, it does show it in liters per minute, so I go by CFH, but yeah, 8 to 12, this gauge reads in CFH, so I'm gonna do like 18. Gas is all hooked up, but like always, check for leaks. We're looking decent, so let's go ahead. We're ready to weld. Okay, before we start, just make sure the machine gets set up. So this thing, it has like a smart setting. So on this model, the 145, it'll know if it's 220 or if it's 110. As for these settings, now it kind of automatically controls the wire speed alongside the amperage or the voltage. So if you hard press this button or click it, you can adjust the voltage on its own a little bit more. It's kind of confusing, to be honest, but I just leave it on the smart setting, so it'll more or less adjust it on its own. But on the side here, so this is 1/8 inch, converted to millimeters is about 3. So the settings over here has 2 and 4, but on 4 it's accounting for basically 19. That seems a little on the high side, but let's just see what this even goes up to really quick. So a little over 21 volts. So we will try, I guess, the 19 and see what happens. Let's get to welding. I did set the gas flow to about 20, so let's just give it some tacks and then we'll weld along the joint here, and then I do have some solid rod or some square tube that we can weld the backside as well. Okay. Now let's just weld the backside first, I guess. I'm already here. Not bad, honestly. Let's finish this one out. Honestly, this thing is pretty stinking smooth. Not mad at that at all. It's not focusing very well. Definitely not bad. Let's run another one. We'll crank it up a little bit. That seemed pretty decent for 1/8 inch. Wire feed is a little on the slow side, depending on your preference. I don't really mind, I just adjust my welding to it. But a little slow, but smooth. Turned it up just a little bit, see what happens. I mean, this thing, it just works, honestly. I mean, I know this is a very simple test, but like I've used some welders before where they can't even, get a smooth weld right out of this. So it's hard to see because if the camera will focus, but there's also almost no spatter. Very, very minimal, which is great. It means the wire speed is doing good, because usually when you have a lot of spatter, that's because there's too much wire and it can't get burned off with the puddle. I'm gonna go find something else in my scrap bin really quick and see if we can't get something thicker, and then we'll try some thin stuff too for you sheet metal guys. All right, I don't have much thick stuff laying around here, again being that I'm primarily automotive fabrication, but I do have some 120 wall DOM roll cage tubing, so that seems like a fair test. Wall thickness on that, I don't know. I want to say it's actually really similar to what we just welded, but part of that is it's fine, because this is something that a lot of people might be DIYing in their garage, is making a roll cage or a roll hoop or something along those lines for themselves. So if it can get a good weld on that, we'll be happy. Let's see. Not too bad. Definitely not a bad weld at all. I am actually quite happy with that. It's super consistent. That's what I'm actually liking about this thing. It doesn't, like, I've used a handful of Harbor Freight welders. Their titanium line is actually pretty decent, but theirs is almost like hypersensitive, harder to adjust. But it works well, especially for the price. But I do believe this one is actually a few bucks cheaper. So we'll have them both up here on the screen. But I can say, at least side by side, not that I have the Harbor Freight one here because mine died a couple years ago, and that's why I ended up with the big Hobart here. But this thing, especially for the size and the price point, is welding quite nice. It says the highest setting up here on the thing is about 1/4 inch. Now the only thing I've got that's about that thick is this plate. I want to say this is around 1/2 inch. Let me half, quarter, actually I'm not even sure. Let's measure this really quick, and if it's 1/4, we will crank this puppy up. I'll chop this out. This is actually 3/8. So whatever, you know what, let's try it. Let's chop a piece off of this, see if we can get a thick weld, and see if while we're running this thing at its max, if it'll duty cycle out on us, kind of give us an idea of how much runtime we can get if you know, you're doing sporadic welds like this. So I do have this thing cranked all the way up right now. Basically shows 21.2 volts. If you need to get a little bit more heat, you can click the center dial and turn the amperage up a little bit more, but I don't think that adjusts the wire speed at the same time. So try and get that centered roughly. Solid. Definitely no complaints on the 3/8. I would definitely say this could at least repair some trailer work if needed be, only if you're on the 220. Now, yeah, this 110 is going to limit us pretty heavy. So let's swap over and see how it does on the DOM tubing. All right, now you can see it auto-detected it's on 110. So we are a little bit more limited. Obviously it says 20 volts, but I don't think it's going to be doing the same sort of output. So let's try the 19 we were at before when we were doing the DOM tubing and see how that works out for us. I mean, honestly, not terrible. I would say that's definitely passable, but it's a little cold for what I like. So try 19.5. See if that just makes it just a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. So that 19.5, that half a step up or half a volt up or whatever, made a decent difference. So I know this is going to be a little bit hotter on the one side, but that's the focus up, focus ring. So that's the one side, and that's the other. So I don't know, definitely noticeable when you're looking at the puddle. The higher voltage one obviously is going to have a bit more depth and shimmer to it, whereas this first side you could kind of tell it was stacking a little bit too much. So that works. Let's find some exhaust pipe really quick, do a thin test, and probably wrap this up. Cool. So right now we're still on the 19 volts. We're going to turn that down a little bit. Go down to 17. See if we can't just run a straight bead around this. Alright, 17 is definitely on the cold side, so this thing's going to do sheet metal just fine. So we're going to jump that thing up. Try 18.5. There we go. Yeah, 18.5 is definitely spot for exhaust. It's one of those things where there's not really a motion that you can do, especially for the muffler shop stuff. We just run straight beads around here. But that looks pretty stinking good to me. That definitely ain't going to leak. And honestly, I think with a couple days practice, any of you dudes running this welder could open your own muffler shop and put the rest of these chumps out of business, because at least this one's fully welded. I think you'll do the same. I got no complaints. I mean, not that we're doing crazy extensive weld tests on this thing, but this is stuff that I feel like a normal guy is going to be using this thing for. We're not going to be running 20 minutes solid on this thing, and I don't have enough material here to try and put this thing through its paces to duty cycle out. Most of these things, it's like a 60-40 or a 40-60, like 40% on, 60% off. So if you're doing like 40 seconds worth of welding, you gotta let it sit for like a minute. I think that's usually how it works, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, which I'm sure I am. But regardless, I used my Flux one to build my entire trailer adapter, and that thing didn't duty cycle out once, and that was also with the welder sitting in the sun, getting heat soaked here in the desert sun. Honestly, it's pretty solid. If I didn't already have the flux welder in the trailer, I would use this as a trackside repair. The only issue with that is you got to have the bottle of gas with you at all times. But the beautiful thing is this thing also does do the flux welding. It also does the stick, but I don't do stick welding. I don't have any electrodes here, so I can't really test that function. And anything that is a stick welder, this will also do TIG welding, but they don't have the lead for that, which I'm sure you can purchase separately for pretty cheap. Honestly, on this welder review, I think this thing is a pretty solid piece of equipment. It's packaged nicely, it's compact, it's lightweight. It definitely puts it through the paces. We did everything from exhaust pipe to roll cage to 3/8. I don't know what you're gonna be welding 3/8 crap for. Maybe adding a tongue onto your trailer or something, a tongue adapter of some sort, or whatever you might need to do, some framework on a truck. This thing can handle it. Thicker stuff, obviously maybe get a little bit of preheat in there to be a little on the safe side, but for what it's worth, this little thing does quite the job. So I'm gonna wrap this video up here. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Hopefully this kind of persuades you. The Harbor Freight stuff works pretty good, but again, if this suits your budget better, or if you just don't want to buy something at Harbor Freight, you're out in the boonies, you don't have one near you, need something to order online, check out the Hynadee. So do what you love, think about the rest. Thanks for spending some time out of your day here with me on the channel. Hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.